Hello all my dear students to the Kundu tutorial. So today we will do the second part of the fertilization, how the fertilization it is taking place in the plants, and for first video you can go in the description box for taking the link I have already posted. So let's ahead the class. So as I said students, sexual reproduction in plants, 4 steps: pollination, then germination, then fertilization, and last formation of the fruit and the seed. So one by one we will see what are the topics. So as I say, the first step of the fertilization or the double fertilization rather, it will be the pollination. So what does it mean by pollination? Pollination, it is the transfer of pollen. Just now I told inside the anther, suppose if it is the anther, so inside the anther many teeny like structure they are present. So these structures are known as the pollen grain. Okay, pollens. So these pollen, it will be consist inside the anther and it will be the filament, right? So these pollen grain, whenever it will burst out, and this pollen grain whenever it will go to fuse with the stigma of the female one, then it will be known as the pollination. Okay, so again I am telling the transfer of the pollen from the male anther to the female stigma. So just movement of the pollen grain from the male body to the female body. That simple procedure is known as pollination. Sometimes the question may be arise from here, pollination just we have discussed. So now you tell me how many types of the pollination it can be. There are two types pollination present, that is the self pollination and the cross pollination. Suppose self pollination means, self means what? Self means actually it will come means yourself, by yourself, or we can write the ourself, means which is inside your, and cross means which is not inside your. And here the your means what? The flower. So inside one flower, whenever the both male and female gametes are present and they will take the participation in the pollination, it will be known as the self pollination. Suppose if I draw here one flower over here, okay, so in this flower the female gamete also there and the male gamete also there. So from the male gamete the pollen grain it will come to the female, so it will be known as the self pollination. But whenever suppose from this flower the pollen grain it will go to the another flower where actually only the stigma is present, suppose. So from this whenever it will transfer to the another flower, not in the same flower, not in the same flower, but it will go to the another flower, then it will be known as cross. That time we will not tell it is a self. Understood? So the idea it has been clear to you that in same flower it will be self, same. Just you can remember same, same also it is starting with S, self also starting with S, right? So if you cannot remember like that, how I will remember like that? So it is a very quick tricks to remember that one. And cross means whenever it will take between the two flowers, at least two flowers it is needed. Okay, okay, now we have reached to the second step, pollen grain germination. Pollen grain germination means after the pollination, means after the pollen lands to the suitable stigma, it has to reach the female gamete. That means where the female gametes are located inside the ovary. So it will be quite in distance from the stigma. Okay, so this whatever that pollen grain, whenever it has attached with the stigma, so this pollen grain it has to reach inside the ovule or the egg cell. So for this, pollen grain germinates on the stigma and forms a tube, so that with this tube, this is known as pollen tube. With the pollen tube actually it is like a channel. So whenever it will form a channel, easily the pollen grain it will go towards the ovary. Okay, it travels through the style and reaches the ovule present in the ovary. Okay, after reaching towards the ovary, that means inside the ovary, suppose if it is the ovary, so inside the ovary ovules are there. Suppose if it is the ovule, so inside the ovule the egg cell, it will be there just very clear or very close to the pollen tube. Suppose if it is the pollen tube, then the male gamete, it will wait for the fertilization. So these two are the pollen grain or the male germ cell, and this one is the egg cell from the female side. So whenever these two nucleus, they are waiting for germination or for fertilization rather, so these two nucleus, first it will go inside of the ovary. So first it will take the first time of the fertilization. As I was telling from the first, for today's topic, it is a double fertilization. So this second pollen grain, whenever, just I am zooming it, then it will be clear to you. Just to try to see this second pollination, second pollen grain actually, whenever it will enter to the next, then only one naked nucleus, it will be there inside the ovule. Okay, so after reaching this pollen grain, it will go here and it will join together, and with the other two nucleuses, it will form the three nucleus structure. So it will be the second time of the reproduction or the fertilization. So what is the summary? It is the first time of the fertilization and it will be the second time of the fertilization. So now you to tell me, students, how many times fertilization it has been taken place? 2 times. That's why it will be known as double fertilization, and very important for your term 2 examination, means both for the class 10 and 12 I am telling. Okay, so in this figure actually they have told the same thing, how the pollen grain, it will come, it will join together to stigma, and how it will create this pollen tube. And after creation of the pollen tube, see here the two pollen grains are there. Two pollen grains means actually means two nucleus, with two nucleus, one macronucleus and another it should be the micronucleus. So between these two nucleus, first macronucleus, it will enter inside the ovule, and first time fertilization it will be taking place, and after that the second nucleus which will be remaining, the second nucleus it will enter, and the second time of the fertilization it will take place, right? So this is only the double fertilization. And if you have any query about this topic, suppose in any case pollination, fertilization, how it has been taken place, I know that still if you have any doubt, please you can write your own comment if you have any doubt or not. Otherwise this session how it is, means you are getting helpful or not, that is please give me comment, and don't forget to subscribe and press the like button. Okay students, so bye bye for today. Again we will be meeting the fertilization in human being. So still that, please stay tuned with this channel. Goodbye everyone. Thank you.